sameach!
Hallelujah.
Thank you, Matt.
We will be beginning the Passover Seder. Okay. Hallelujah. Who wants to pray? Open us with a little prayer. Dear Heavenly Father, we're so grateful for this day. We just ask that you reveal new things to us with this Passover Seder. Let us be able to experience the coming out of Egypt, of Mizraim. Let us understand what that is, that bondage that we were all slaves to and now are being redeemed out of. And help us connect it with the Messiah and actually see his life being given for our sins, for our bondage, to set us free. Because he came to set the captives free.
Hallelujah.
Hallelujah, Father. We thank you in the name of Yahushua HaMashiach. Amen.
Amen.
Okay. The story of Passover begins at the very beginning, when darkness was on the face of the deep. And Elohim said, "Let there be light," and there was light. And we're going to read John 1 through 13.
Hallelujah. Yahukanan Aleph. Dot. Gimel.
First one.
Yes, thank you. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with Elohim, and the Word was Elohim. He was in the beginning with Elohim, and came to be through him, and without him not even one came to be that came to be. In him was Chai, and the Chai was the light of men.
A spiritual life.
And the light shines in the darkness, and the darkness has not overcome it.
Amen.
There was a man sent from Elohim, whose name was Yochanan. This one came for a witness, to bear witness of the light, that all might believe through him. He was not that light, but that he might bear witness of the light. He was the true light which enlightens every man coming into the world. He was in the world, and the world came to be through him, and the world did not know him. He came to his own, and his own did not receive him. But as many as received him, to them he gave the authority to become children of Elohim, to those believing in his name, who were born not of blood, nor of the desire of flesh, nor of the desire of man, but of Elohim.
Hallelujah.
Thank you.
Jonathan, begin the lighting.
Do we recite?
We'll do it after we light them up. So we just read Yahushua was in the beginning too, right? Yahushua was in the beginning, and he is the light of life.
Amen.
These candles represents the light that he has given us. We're able to manipulate this earth, this time that we're here, and we can bring his presence, his light through us. Amen. And we read, "Blessed are you,
Yahuwah, our Elohim, creator of the universe, who created light and said that it was good."
Amen.
Amen.
Okay, yeah.
Elohim created the earth and every living thing in it. He created male and female humans and put them in the Garden of Eden. Elohim told them they could eat the fruit of any tree except for one. But the woman and the man did eat from that tree, and in that moment sin entered the world. No longer could the man, Adam, and the woman, Hawa, walk with Elohim, nor could they live in the perfect garden he had created for them. But Elohim longed for people to walk with him again, so he made a plan to reunite the Creator with the created.
Many years later, there was a man named Abram who lived in Ur. Yahuwah called Abram to come out of Ur, leave everything behind, and dwell in Canaan. Abram did so, but had to go to Egypt due to famine. When Abram was able to leave Egypt, Yahuwah told Abram that he would give the land of Canaan to Abram and his descendants forever.
Yahuwah empowered Abraham to defeat all the pagan kings in the land. It was then that Melchizedek, the king of righteousness, priest of El Elyon, brought out bread and wine. blessed the Almighty and blessed Abraham. Thus was instituted the blessing for bread and wine.
So we can get a piece of matzah. And we're going to read.
Blessed are you, Yahuwah, our Elohim, King of the universe, who brings forth bread from the earth.
We read.
Blessed are you, Yahuwah, our Elohim, King of the universe, who gives us the fruit of the vine.
L'chaim.
Hallelujah.
Amen.
For a long time, Abraham had no children. Yahuwah changed his name to Abraham and promised that he would be the father to many. At times, Abraham doubted Yahuwah's promise that his descendants will be as numerous as the dust of the earth. But his wife Sarah conceived and bore him a son, who he named Yishak. This son was to be a father to a great nation.
After these things, Elohim tested Abraham. He said to him, Abraham, take your son, your only son, whom you love, Yitzhak, and offer him as a burnt offering on a mountain that I will show you.
Abraham prepared to do as he was told. Isaac asked him, Father, I see the fire and the wood, but where is the lamb for a burnt offering? Abraham replied, Yahuwah will provide the lamb. Abraham built an altar, then bound and prepared to sacrifice his son. At that moment, an angel called out to him,
Abraham, don't lay your hands on him. Now I know you are a man who fears Yahuwah. Abraham saw a ram with his horns caught in a nearby thorny thicket, this was the replacement Yahuwah had provided. Abraham offered up the ram instead of a son. Thus was instituted the shadow picture of a male lamb as a substitute offering.
Amen. Yishak later had a son named Yaakov, also called Israel. And Israel had 12 sons. When a famine came over the land of Canaan, Israel's tribe relocated to Egypt, just as Abraham had once done. The people of Israel stayed in Egypt and became slaves to Pharaoh, the king of Egypt. They were forced to make bricks and build cities and temples dedicated to the pagan Egyptian gods. We eat bitter herbs to remind us of how bitter slavery is.
Which is the...
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. The better one? Mm-hmm.
Mm. Oh.
Yeah, that's a kick. That's a kick.
Where's the mortar?
You guys want to get some mortar to remind us of the bricks?
Mm.
Yeah.
Just dig
Right
it
now?
out.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we ate the bitter herbs, and this we're eating now represents the mortar of the building of the pagan temples for the Egyptians, and it was a horrible thing. That'll do, guys.
What's that called in the mortar?
Hamoset.
How to set?
Many years later, a new Pharaoh was afraid of the people of Israel. He cruelly decreed that all their newborn sons must be killed. One mother hid her son and put him in a basket on the river Nile. An Egyptian princess found the child and named him Moshe. Moshe was raised in Pharaoh's house. When he was a grown man, he left Egypt and dwelt in Midian and became a shepherd.
One day Moshe saw a burning bush on a mountain. The bush seemed to be on fire, but was not being burned up. Moshe went up to see the amazing sight. When he got there, Yahuwah called to him, saying,
Moshe, Moshe, take your sandals off your feet, because the place you are standing is holy ground. I am the Elohim of your father, of Abraham, Isaac, and Yaakov. I have seen how my people are being oppressed in Egypt, and I have heard their cry. I am going to bring them out of Egypt to a good land flowing with milk and honey. Therefore, I will send you to Pharaoh, so you can lead the descendants of Israel out of Egypt.
Moshe went to Pharaoh and demanded that he let the people go. But Pharaoh said, "Who is this Yahuwah that I should let Israel go? I don't know Yahuwah, and I won't let the people go." So Yahuwah sent 10 plagues upon Egypt. We will dip our finger in the wine and put 10 drops to represent the 10 plagues as we read them out loud. Ready?
Yeah.
Blood, frogs, lice, flies, pestilence, boils, hail, locusts, darkness, death.
The last plague, death, came upon all the firstborn of Egypt, to keep the firstborn of Israel safe. Yahuwah told them that each family should choose a lamb. The lamb must be perfect, a male in its first year, and none of its bones were to be broken. Each family slaughtered the lamb at dusk and smeared the lamb's blood on the doorway. Yahuwah said,
I will pass through the land of Egypt and kill all the firstborn, both men and animals, and I will execute judgment against all the gods of Egypt. The blood will serve as a sign marking the houses where you are. When I see the blood, I will pass over you, and the death blow will not strike you.
Hallelujah.
So we're going to take a piece of parsley and dip it in the wine, and we're going to apply it to our plate and make it the symbol of the chet, which means life.
It's like a door.
And it's the doorway.
Yeah, it's the two.
Lentil?
The
The 2 doorposts and the
doorposts.
lentils.
Come on.
And it makes
Mm-hmm.
it's like a square with the out the bottom piece.
Hallelujah.
And this is the life. And we're also going to dip the parsley in the salt water to remind us that slavery was bitter, and by our tears, we were redeemed through the blood.
Come on. Oh, the people had to prepare their meals quickly that night because they were getting ready to leave Egypt. They ate unleavened bread, or matzah. Yahuwah commanded that every year we eat only matzah and no leavened bread for 7 days. So each year we celebrate the feast of unleavened bread.
So the people of Israel left Egypt and camped by the Red Sea. Pharaoh decided to pursue them, and Yahuwah blocked his way with a pillar of fire. Yahuwah opened up the Red Sea, and the children of Israel walked through on dry ground. When the pillar of fire died and Pharaoh pursued them through the sea closed up on him and his army. The children of Israel were freed from Egypt at last.
Hallelujah.
Blessed are you, Yahuwah, our Elohim, King of the universe, who brought us out of Egypt. Should we get some money? Just money.
Hallelujah.
should we
Thank-
get more matzah? Or?
So,
Oh, yeah.
can I come there?
You come to.
So the pillar of fire that blocked and protected the children of Israel is a manifestation of Yahushua before being born as a man.
Yes. And it's interesting, the comment attention was it died. It said it died and he gave way for Pharaoh to go through, only for Pharaoh to be destroyed.
Right.
So through the death of our Messiah, through our Elohim, death comes to our enemies. We are saved.
Oh.
Right, and we can see that with the Passover.
Yeah.
Love it.
We honey and butter on our matzah to remind us that freedom from slavery is sweet, and to remind us that the land Yahuwah promised Israel was flowing with milk and honey.
I love it.
I have one.
Oh,
For you. You have a nice head. Look at that one.
that's beautiful.
Just a little bit too. A little bit.
You know what they say? Too much honey.
Yeah, it's bad for the tummy. I'm just kidding. That's the proverb.
The proverb, right. So we all eat honey?
Yeah.
Hallelujah.
Hallelujah.
Yahuwah gave the children of Israel righteous laws to live by. They eventually settled in the land promised to the sons of Abraham, which came to be known as the land of Israel. Thousands of years passed. Some of the people forgot about Passover, but there were always some who remembered, and who each year slaughtered a lamb in remembrance. The people were at times wicked, and many refused to keep Yahuwah's laws.
From time to time, prophets arose and foretold of a Messiah who would come to Israel and save them from sinfulness. 2,000 years ago, a child was born, the only begotten son of Yahuwah himself. His name was Yeshua, and he is the only person who ever lived a sinless life. That means he kept every one of Yahuwah's laws perfectly. A prophet named Yochanan laid eyes on him and proclaimed,
Behold, the Lamb of Yahuwah who takes away the sins of the world. Like the Passover lamb, he was perfect. Just as a male lamb was the substitute for the firstborn of Israel, so Yahushua prepared himself as the substitute payment for all humankind. At Yahushua's Last Supper, the last evening before Passover that year, he took some bread and broke it.
Blessed are you, Yahuwah, our Elohim, King of the universe, who brings forth bread from the earth. And he said, eat. This represents my body broken for you. Do this in remembrance of me. Likewise, he took the wine. Blessed are you, Yahuwah, our Elohim, King of the universe, who creates the fruit of the vine. And Yeshua said, take, drink. This represents my blood, shed for you, that you may have your sins forgiven.
Hallelujah.
The next day, at the same time, the Passover lambs were being prepared for slaughter. Yahushua was sentenced to die on an execution stake. Like the lambs, he had committed no crime. Some of the people were given a choice to set Yahushua free or to set free a criminal. The people chose to set the criminal free.
Yahushua was whipped many times, and a crown of thorns was forced onto his head. He was nailed to an execution stake. At the time when the very last Passover lamb was sacrificed, he cried, "It is finished."
It is finished!
And you're going to be my bride also. And his spirit left his body. The people were eager for him to die before Passover started. So they decided to break his legs to speed the process. Before they did so, they realized he was already dead. Thus, the picture of the bones of the Passover lamb to remain unbroken was fulfilled.
They pierced his side and outpoured blood and water. Thus was fulfilled the prophecy of Isaiah.
He was pierced for our transgressions, crushed for our iniquities. The chastisement for our peace was upon him, and by his stripes we are healed.
On Passover, we remember,
I am the criminal. I am the one who has sinned. I am the one who ate of the tree of knowledge of good and evil. I sinned against the Almighty, and I deserve to die. But like Ishak, I was spared. Like the criminal, I was set free. Yeshua took my place. He brought me out of Egypt, out of the land of slavery, of idolatry, of false worship. His blood covers the doorposts of my house, separating me, keeping me holy.
When Yeshua blessed the fruit of the vine at the Last Supper, he said, I shall certainly not drink of this fruit of the vine from now until that day when I drink it anew with you in the reign of my Father.
We drink this cup in anticipation of that glorious day when we will drink the cup of celebration with our King of Kings.
Blessed are you, Yahuwah, our Elohim, King of the universe, who has created the world, and who has redeemed the world by the blood of Mashiach Yahushua, our Passover. Amen.
Next year in Jerusalem.
Next year in Jerusalem!
Hallelujah!
Hallelujah!
Hallelujah. This cup is also the remembrance of our covenant with him, as he is going to be our future husband.
Hallelujah.
Amen.
That's what it calls for.
Hallelujah.
Praise
Don't
Yahuwah.
forget Yahuwah.
Welcome.
Amen.
And this is also when we take note of the communion, because we are taking note of him, of his life, and
Incredible.
what he did for us. Because we, as we read, are all guilty
That's
of
right.
sin one way or another, and thanks to him, we do not have to see that.
Thank you, Majesty. We're so grateful that we have a Passover lamb, and the plagues of this world do not come near our tents because Yahushua's blood is protecting all those that are taking refuge in the Father Yahuwah.
Amen.
Let's go get the Passover!
Let's go get the Passover lamb.
Yes, over there.